What is going on, Jet fans? Matt O'Leary back with the post-game video for Jets Steelers, a 34-32 loss in week one. Voice isn't in great shape. We decided to do a live stream instead of a video because honestly, I just got home back to Long Island after the game and just didn't feel like editing a video, doing the full post-game that way. So we're going to do it live, not a crazy long live stream, but we'll go through your guys' comments. I'll give my reaction to the game and so much more in this one. Before we really get started, I just wanted to give a genuine thank you to everyone who came out with the Talking Jets crew, whether it was yesterday at Bezara or today for the tailgate or in the stadium. The support is just truly awesome, and our community of Jets fans is the absolute best. And one of these years, we're going to see a New York Jets win, but unfortunately not this year. Guys, the post-game show is brought to you by Sleeper. Think you know football? Then try to turn your football knowledge into real money with the Sleeper app, the ultimate fantasy sports app that can turn game day into payday. Just download the Sleeper app and pick more or less on your favorite players. With more stats than any other daily fantasy app, just choose two or more of your favorite players from pregame or live. Pick more or less from the predictive stats, and you can win up to 1,000 times your money if your picks win. Use promo code O'Leary, and you'll get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. All right, so this one, man, talk about a frustrating loss. So I thought the offense in the first half just looked absolutely dominant. They went up and down the field. This was the opposite kind of game than I thought it was going to be. If you listen to me all week, and a lot of people, I wasn't the only one on this, but pretty much the consensus was this is going to be a low-scoring game. The under seems like a good play. I don't think either one of these teams are going to put up a ton of offense, right? Like the Jets, major question marks with Justin Fields. Aaron Rodgers hasn't had much of an offseason. What does this game look like? Well, 34-32. Is your final score in this one. And again, really can't ask for too much more from the offense in this game. We'll pull up the numbers now and react to it. But if you take a look, offensively, Justin Fields passing 16-22, 218 yards, a touchdown, no interceptions, 9.9 yards per attempt, a 119.1 passer rating, and rushing 12 carries, 48 yards, 2 touchdowns. A 3-touchdown game from Justin Fields. Breece Hall was also awesome in this game. 19 carries, 107 yards, 5.6 yards per attempt. Garrett Wilson was awesome. 7 catches for 95 yards and a touchdown. That throw from Justin Fields to Garrett Wilson in the end zone was, not right in front of the end zone, and he ended up walking in for a touchdown, was absolutely incredible stuff. Things you just really love to see. They finally took a shot down the field. I thought on that first drive where they settled for a field goal, they got a little conservative at the end. They were running the ball with authority, but then, they get a 2nd and 9 and they decide to run and they lose a yard or go for no gain. And then they also run with Isaiah Davis. And after that on 3rd and 9, it's like, I don't know. I would have liked to see them throw one of those 2 times. And Fields had it today, clearly. Again, completed 16-22. What's the math on that? His completion percentage was really impressive. 16-22. Oops, not a math guy. Hold on. 16 of 22 is 72.7% completion. Again, really, really good day from him. Breece Hall, 2 catches for 38 yards, had a really long one. Tyler Johnson, 2 for 31. He had a big catch to move the chains. Mason Taylor, only 1 catch, but his 20 yards to move the chains. Jeremy Ruckert actually had a couple of really nice catches. I thought he had a nice day. And Josh Reynolds had 2 for 18. But the problem today was the defense and turnovers. So defensively, the tackling issues really presented themselves again in this game. For me, again, the big 2 things stood out. Brandon Stevens was horrendous in this game. I did not think he looked good at all. I would like to see AZ Thomas, honestly, sooner rather than later. And Tony Adams, man, there was one play on third down on the first drive. They could have gotten off the field. And the effort that he gave to try to bring down the receiver was just frankly embarrassing. It was not a good effort in the least. And they just couldn't get off the field on third downs. They got some sacks, 4 sacks. Will McDonald had a couple, which was cool to see, especially going up against Broderick Jones was something that I would have liked, to really have the final nail in the coffin. If with that draft pick from a couple of years ago, obviously he was better than Broderick Jones, but it would have been nice to cap it off with a win. Quincy Williams with a sack on a blitz. Quinnen Williams looked good. But some of these numbers, man, the missed tackles and the safety duo, I don't think played a good game at all. Aaron Rodgers throws for 4 touchdowns in this game, 22 of 30, 244 yards, 4 touchdowns, a 136.7 rating. As a team, they didn't really run the ball all that great for Pittsburgh. 20 carries, 53 yards, 2.7 yards per attempt, but they bit hard on the play action fakes. They missed their tackles in open space. Guys were getting open. DK 4 for 83. Sauce looked good on DK, but he was able to get free a couple other times. Calvin Austin 4 for 70. Ben Skronik got in the end zone. Jalen Warren got in the end zone. Jonnu Smith, who always kills the Jets, got in the end zone. They couldn't get the big stop when they needed it. There was maybe 1 or 2 drives in this game where you felt like the defense got the stop you were hoping for. And then the other times they let them go right down the field. And speaking of things that just make you scratch your head and get really frustrated, we talked about the yardage, right? And the missed tackles. That was an issue. The Jets defense, they allowed only 271 total yards, which isn't a ton, but it was just the timing of these plays. It was third downs, not being able to get off the field. It was after your team scores, not being able to have that, to use a baseball term, that shutdown inning after your team goes down and scores and goes up. And turnovers. Xavier Gipson, after the Jets give up a touchdown, they have a lead at this point, a 5-point lead. And they're going to get the ball back, and Xavier Gipson fumbles the kickoff and gift wraps the Pittsburgh Steelers a possession in the red zone. I mean, this is why people were upset about Jamal Pritchett not making the team. For this play, exactly. Again, I don't know how people like us watching at home go, man, Xavier Gipson, the fumbles are an issue for him. And I get it. In training camp, he was perfect. He missed time in the preseason. Didn't really get to see him a whole lot in the preseason. But in the regular season, 35 games, 10 fumbles in his career. That's way too many. That's way too many. And they didn't get any breaks with the penalties, too. They were penalized 7 times for 74 yards, which was too many. Pittsburgh 4 for 26. There were a couple times where Justin Fields got hit up high where it wasn't called. There were a few questionable ones where the Steelers seemed to get the benefit. Now, I'm not saying the Jets lost this game because of the referees. I don't think that's fair because they did. A lot of it was self-inflicted with the turnovers and defensively not, missing assignments and not having the ability to get off the football field on third down. Again, really, really frustrating. The Quincy penalty out of bounds. It's just you beat yourselves, and now you find yourself in a hole at 0-1, which is just not ideal as you go and host Buffalo in week 2. The offense was great. They scored 32 points. If you score 32 points, you should win the game. I don't like Tanner Engstrand. Only thing I have to say to him is on 3rd and short or 4th and short, when it's 1 yard to go, can you use your 235 quarterback and just run up the middle? Why are you doing shotgun runs? There were a couple times where they did it. And, the failed 2-point conversion was one of those opportunities. There was another one at another point during the game. That's my one gripe or critique. But They had nearly 400 yards of offense. The Jets had 394 yards of offense, 212 passing, 182 yards rushing, and they lost the game because of a fumble and because they weren't able to get off the field. And it's just so frustrating and annoying, man. It really, really is. So with that, let's get into some of your comments. We'll hang out for a little bit. We're not going to do call-ins. I left my headphones downstairs after coming back from the trip. So we're going to keep this on the shorter side. Not going to go crazy long, but want to get some of your guys' thoughts on this one. Marcelo chimes in, says this was not the same old Jets. That's a good place to get us started. It's not the same old Jets in the sense that they put up points. It's the same old Jets in the sense that they had an opportunity to win a game and they lost against a guy who was just your quarterback a year ago. And I'm not, the Rodgers story is going to be a huge deal this week. And it's not really fair to Justin Fields because he had an awesome, awesome game. But you have a lead. You're not able to hold on. They had a 9-point lead at points during this game, and a fumble cost you. It's just, this is the stuff, again, that where you go, man, like, can they just not figure out a way to close a game? It shouldn't be this hard. But not the same old Jets in the sense that we walked in the game backwards. We thought it was going to work. But as a group, we saw our first offensive touchdown, and they got in the end zone 4 times today. 4 times and still lost the game. Gosh. Dano says loss is entirely on Corley for not beating Gibson with the clown emoji. Oh, God. How about Malachi Corley just being a complete douchebag, asking for $1 million? Did you guys see that story from Devontae Adams this week? Connor Hughes had it earlier saying that he asked for, what was it, $100,000, $120,000? And Devontae said, no, he asked for $1 million. But, man, Pritchett was there. That was the guy, right? Everyone talked about Jamal Pritchett all off-season long, all training camp and preseason long, excuse me. And in week one, it took one game for the decision to bite them. He did have a nice return earlier in the game, but the fumbles are an issue. Great. He caught all the punts in training camp. When the lights came on, fumbled in a huge spot. You can't have those mistakes. Jonas says very close game. It was. At least you don't get like just the complete blowout game, right? We've seen a lot of blowouts. 28-3, 20-6. It wasn't disgusting, but again, I keep going back to it. It's typical in the sense that they just found a way to lose this game. This team just struggles to find ways to win. They make it so hard on themselves to win games. They just find ways to lose with the fumble. And, Brandon Stevens, a guy that, talking this past offseason when they signed him, we're going, why did they sign Brandon Stevens? I don't get that one. And he has a bad game. Or Tony Adams is going to be your starting safety again this year and misses tackles like he always does. Duncan chimes in. What's up, Duncan? Says defensive backfield was brutal. Safety play wasn't good. I'm going to give Sauce credit. I thought Sauce had a good game. Michael Carter made a couple of big tackles, but there were also a few times where I feel like he could have made a play. It would have been a hard catch, but he dropped the interception. The Brandon Stevens falling down on what would have been essentially a game-sealing interception. If you get points after that, is absolutely brutal. I think we got to see AZ Thomas sooner rather than later. Dano chimes back in and says, let's play for the division lead next week. Could all the teams be 0-1? I'm looking forward to that one tonight between the Baltimore Ravens and the Buffalo Bills. I think it's going to be a good one. I really do. I picked Baltimore. With how Pittsburgh's offense looked, though, today, is Buffalo going to hang 50 on the Jets next week? Like, they got to get this shit going in the right direction soon, like sooner rather than later defensively, because Josh Allen is going to carve up this Jets secondary like a Christmas ham if they play like they did today. But you're right. Like, let's not lose sight of it. It is week one. It's a frustrating game. It's one that I would have liked to have. And the Jets have a hard schedule. And I get that, like, this isn't a year where anyone's really expecting them to compete for a Super Bowl or, like, I think their win total was 5.5 or 6, in Vegas. But the season's not over after one game. It's still frustrating, though. I wanted to pull this one up from Billy SBC's. He was saying you take the point after attempt. I didn't mind them going for it. I just hated the play call. You're on the 1 yard line. Essentially, a tush push with Justin Fields. We didn't see a tush push today. The Jets voted to keep it, but when they got down on the goal line later on, he would get in the end zone a couple of times. But man, like, put your head down and go. Braylon Allen wasn't able to punch it in. And they ran it, like, running these plays out of the shotgun in the short yardage situation. I don't understand it. I don't get it. Mike Hoover, good way to describe this game. It was a loss, a dumb one, but we were competitive. Mike, spot on. It was a dumb loss. This is a game where, again, if I told you going into today, no context, right? You didn't watch the game, but I'm from the future. The Jets had 400 yards of offense and Justin Fields had 3 touchdowns and they scored 32 points. You're going, oh my God, they must have won this game. This had to look awesome. Nope. 34-32 loss. They were competitive, right? I talked about a lot this offseason that in these losses, the Jets are going to lose games this year. I want them to be competitive, keep it tight. They were. A 34-32 game, a back and forth game. Was it entertaining? Yeah, I was entertained as hell at the game. There was a lot of fun had at the game, but also there was frustration because this team does stupid things at times. Connor Long, my co-host for the pregame show, will be back. I'm sure he was live earlier today. Didn't get a chance to see it. Was out at the tailgate, obviously, but we'll be back doing our pregame live next Sunday. Connor chimes in, says a lot of positives despite this awful loss. Tanner Engstrand's play calling was great. Fields fits this team way better than Rodgers. Hyped for pregames with you. Connor, I'm hyped to get after it next week. It's going to be a lot of fun for a big game against the Buffalo Bills. I think Fields was a dog today. He played his ass off. He really did. And he took a couple big shots, some that probably should have been penalized, but he got up and he kept chipping away. He had 3 touchdowns today. 2 rushing, a passing touchdown, a beautiful throw to Garrett Wilson. And you look at, like, the Jets' stars on offense. Garrett Wilson, 95 yards, 7 catches, receiving touchdown. Breece Hall, 107 rushing yards, another like 40 receiving yards, a big play in the receiving game. Justin Fields, your quarterback, over 200 yards passing, a passing touchdown, 2 rushing touchdowns. That you could take as a positive. I thought the offensive line, for the most part, held up really well. They only gave up 1 sack. Defensively, though, man, there's work to be done. There is work to be done. Incel Allen says, how was Green Bean today? Green Bean was awesome. I absolutely love hanging out with those guys yesterday and today. He was so pumped when they scored. He was like, our first touchdown. He was screaming. I had to explain to my mom that we've been going to games for 5 years, and we finally got to see them get in the end zone today. And they did it 3 more times after that. There are a lot of touchdowns scored today. He's the best. And thanks again to everyone who came out in this one. My boy, Johnny Boy, says, Matt, I think we beat ourselves. That's a great way to put it. They did beat themselves. They made stupid mistakes. Even the questionable calls against the Jets penalty-wise, there were some dumb penalties. There was a delay of game mixed in. There was an illegal blocking the back mixed in. There were other things in this game penalty-wise that was frustrating. They had to take a timeout on their 2-point conversion. That's not good. And again, I keep saying it, but the tackling is so frustrating with this team. It really is. It needs to be better. Max Fuentes, thank you for the super chat. Says my take is move Stevens to safety with Cisco and sit Adams, who clearly can't tackle, or start more. Have AZ Thomas start at corner. Gibson needs to go. To be honest, 2 fumbles this game, I believe. He lost one. I didn't notice if he like dropped it on another return. Again, we weren't able to see that. And not having the broadcast angle is something that I miss. Going to games, the atmosphere is really fun, and it was a good atmosphere. There were a lot of Steelers fans, but it was a good atmosphere. But I miss not having the luxury of replay and getting a chance to watch on TV. I hope we see AZ Thomas sooner rather than later. I think Stevens to safety would be my first try, an AZ Thomas start, because Malachi Moore, while I'm high on him and he had a good run towards the end of the preseason, there were also some times where he looked lost in coverage. And, he's a day 3 rookie. I like the kid. I think he eventually starts, but I think it's too early for him. AZ Thomas was having a really damn good summer. And I know we didn't see a ton of him in the preseason because of the injuries, but I am definitely ready for the AZ Thomas show. Other fans need to stop saying AG need to be fired. People said that. That's ridiculous. That is utterly ridiculous. It is one freaking game into his career. Let's pump the brakes there on that. Come on now. Tilo says, what stats do we have to see from Fields this season to not use a premium pick on a quarterback next year? This is obviously we got to see down the line, but I think he needs to play as a top half of the league quarterback. And he's hard to project because of the amount of rushing. But if he throws for, say, all 17 games, 3,500 yards passing, has close to 1,000 yards rushing, has 20 to 25 passing touchdowns and another like 10 rushing touchdowns. Once you're getting into like 4,500 passing and rushing and 30 touchdowns combined, that's enough that I think you can work with. But if you get, and I'm not rooting for this, I want to see Justin Fields play like he did this week every single week. Hell yeah. If he does this every week, he's going to be the guy. But if you're kind of on the fence about it, where there's like some really good weeks, there's another week where he's like 7 of 21 passing and has like 87 yards and, a pick. If it's some games like that and some games like it was today, that's makes the debate a little bit more challenging. But I think I'm around, 4,000 to 4,500 combined yards and 30 combined touchdowns. Zachary says, I'm not confident in Nick Folk. Really? We were on the 40-yard line, so we didn't have like a great angle on the kicks to see them go through the upright. He did hit everything today, but I didn't notice if they were like barely making it in or like way shanked left or right going through. That was hard to tell from our angle. He's not the long-term answer at his age, but he's going to be here this year. And, he did everything that he needed to today. So Jake Howard's up next, says if X holds on to that ball and Garrett Wilson too, we win that game. Garrett Wilson won. He got absolutely smoked. The Garrett Wilson one got absolutely smoked. I don't know if they would have had enough time to get down. They could have, sure. The Xavier Gibson one is a million times worse because you still had a 5-point lead. You're getting the ball. If you have any sort of drive, and even if it ends in a field goal and you're up 8 and they got to go down the field and score, sure, maybe they do it because that's how the game was going for Pittsburgh, for both offenses. They kind of moved the ball at will, it felt like. But you gave them a gift. You gave them, again, essentially a red zone possession, and they were able to score. Costly fumble. I did see, so obviously was driving back home, but while I was walking to my car, I did see a quote from Aaron Glenn essentially saying, I want to see if I can go back and actually find it. Sorry, I'm scrolling back on SNY Jets. There's a lot. But it's something like you're gonna, like, if you cost us a game, you're not gonna play. Paraphrasing. That's not the exact word, so don't quote me. But paraphrasing, that was essentially the line. So are you gonna hold true to that? Because if so, then elevate Pritchett off the practice squad next week. That would make me believe that you're gonna hold true to that. Oh, good question from Alex. From your point of view, could Fields had ran on that last play to get the first down? Would have been, it would have been really close. There was a linebacker coming down trying to make the play. It depends on how the tackle was. If Fields is falling forward, assuming he doesn't make the linebacker miss, because that's something he can do. He was elusive today. He made a lot of people miss. But if, let's say there's contact, where the contact was, if he was stood up or pushed back, he wouldn't have had enough. If he was falling forward with his momentum, I think he would have had enough to go over the line. Good question, Alex. I would say yes on that. Dante says, why the fuck is Gibson on the team? We all saw that he did last season and the mediocre kick return play. How did he beat out the other guys? Because he caught, and this is not a good answer, Dante. This isn't my answer. This is the team said this. He caught every punt in training camp. Well, he didn't really play in the preseason, and Pritchett had a strong preseason returning and catching. I think he offers more as Pritchett, that is, offers more as a receiver than Xavier Gibson too. I don't know. I wish I had an answer. And if you go back, look, I'm not right all the time. I have plenty of losses and plenty of times that I'm wrong. When the Jets signed Pritchett as a UDFA, I circled him and said, this is a guy who I think is going to make the roster because of his return ability. And I think that's something that the Jets really need on this team, because I don't trust Xavier Gibson. And they said, we want to go with the veteran. You know, he's going into year 3. He's been a returner for 2 years now. And now he has 10 fumbles in 35 games. That's way too many. That is way too many fumbles. I think that absolutely has to change. Absolutely has to change going forward. I got time for a few more in here. The voice is really starting to go. I am starving, folks. It was a long drive. Not as long as I thought it was going to be. I made relatively good time. I got out of the parking lot at, I'm going to say 5, and I was home by 7, 2 hours. I've had over 4 hours back to Long Island to get out of that stadium, but it's 2 hours. I will take that. Adonis says, I hopped in here late, but we scored over 30 for the first time in a while, so I'm happy with the grit this team showed, and Gibson ruins our chances. Pritchett would have came through. I would have liked to known if Pritchett would have been able to come through or not in that situation. The fan base, that's one the fan base really knew. They got that one right. Everyone, not just me, not just the creators, everyone in the fan base was talking like, how is Pritchett not the returner over Xavier Gibson? And I tweeted out after the game, or during the game, actually, this is why people were upset about the Pritchett news. Sometimes it's okay to react that way about roster guy 50 to 53 because it could cost you games, like we've seen. 10 fumbles in 35 games. Oh, F that. Buffalo Jet tweeted it out. I believe the number, I'm pretty sure, was 10. I'm going to have to scroll back on this. Yeah. Oh, so good call on this. Here, I'm going to pull this up. Give me 1 second. Bear with me. What's crazy is Gibson actually had 2 fumbles. When he placed the ball down before the whistle and McCreary ball jumped on it, that's 11 career fumbles. Was such a great story as a UDFA, but you can't survive like this, man. It was 2 fumbles. So I did not notice that. That's I didn't notice that one. So technically 2 today. So that's up to 11. He played 17 games. his rookie year, 17 games his second year, and 1 game this year. So that's technically 11 fumbles in 35 games. It's over, man. Travel My Dog said, love the offense's look. Thought Fields had poise. Run game looked efficient. D-line looked good. We should cut Gibson. I can forgive Stevens for now. He needs a bounce back performance in a big way. They paid him a lot of money, so he is going to get a longer leash than someone like Xavier Gibson, who was a UDFA from a staff that's no longer here. Fields played really good today. I came away impressed with Justin Fields, and I hope we see this version of Justin Fields every week. Because if that's the case, I think the Jets are going to be competitive, and they'll be in these games. And what stood out to me was not only the high completion percentage and the throws that he made, like the Garrett touchdown, and not only the rushing touchdown. Like, we know he can run. He had 2 rushing touchdowns. That was awesome. And what he finished with rushing, 45 yards? Give me a second. I'll pull up the exact number here. 48, 12 carries, 48 yards. It was the hits that he took and him getting back up and making plays after that. It's so easy after some of those big hits, especially the hits to the face, to just go, I'm calling it. Not take himself out of the game, Anthony Richardson style, tapping out. But you play more skittish after that. We've seen that when quarterbacks get hit, they get a little bit skittish. That wasn't the case at all with Justin Fields today. He made plays with his legs. He got the ball down the field a couple times. You can't ask for better. They had essentially 400 yards of offense today. They scored 32 points. That should be enough to win a football game. We're just eclipsed the 33-minute mark. My voice, I really feel like it's starting to go. So I'm going to call it. But we'll have more coverage of this game and more fallout tomorrow on the channel. Thanks so much, guys, for hanging out. I'm Matt O'Leary. Subscribe here if you're new, and I'll catch you guys next time.